The Wuhan shooting and social unrest in China, the reality behind the facade of stability. 1. The Wuhan shooting, a symptom of deeper unrest. On the evening of May 17, 2025, a rare and shocking shooting incident erupted on Chongren Road in Wuhan's Qiaoku district, Hubei province, shattering the illusion of tranquility in a city still haunted by its COVID-19 legacy. According to fleeting posts on Chinese social media platforms like Douyin and Weibo, a man on a motorcycle sped up to a crowded roadside barbecue stall, drew a firearm and fired 4 precise shots at Dufeng, a wealthy businessman rumored to be a former gang boss with assets worth billions of yuan, and his 2 bodyguards. Dufeng was struck in the head and killed instantly, his body slumping over the table as chaos erupted. The bodyguards, gravely wounded, were rushed to medical care, with unconfirmed reports suggesting a slim chance of survival. The shooter, described in unverified online accounts as the father of a young man Dufeng had allegedly sent to prison where he later died, was driven by a deeply personal vendetta. The incident, occurring just 30 meters from a police station, left residents of this bustling industrial hub reeling. Grainy images of a blood-soaked pavement, scattered chairs, and panicked diners flooded social media, accompanied by reports of echoing gunshots that pierced the humid night air. Within hours, China's censorship apparatus erased all traces of the event from Douyin and Weibo, imposing a blanket ban on discussion. A sarcastic remark spread through private channels: "As long as it's not reported, we're the safest country in the world." This shooting, in a nation with some of the world's strictest gun control laws, is not merely a criminal act, but a glaring symptom of deeper societal unrest in China, a country meticulously portrayed as a beacon of stability and prosperity. The Washington Post and AP News, May 19, 2025, confirmed the incident resulted in 1 death, but official reports were characteristically sparse, omitting details about the victim's identity, the shooter's motive, or the circumstances. This opacity reflects Chinese iron grip on sensitive information, a practice honed during the COVID-19 pandemic and continued in 2025 amid ongoing outbreaks. Rumors about Dufeng, a figure who allegedly amassed wealth through illegal gambling dens and extortion rackets before transitioning to legitimate real estate and entertainment ventures, proliferated online. The revenge-driven narrative, though unverified, resonated with a public desperate for answers in an environment where transparency is a rare commodity. The proximity of the shooting to a police station exposes critical vulnerabilities in China's public security system, particularly in Wuhan, a city of over 11 million people with a complex history of social tensions. The incident occurred in a lively commercial district where families and workers gathered to enjoy affordable street food under neon lights. The audacity of the attack in such a public and heavily monitored area underscores the failure of local authorities to prevent it. Heavily armed SWAT teams, clad in black tactical gear, arrived minutes after the shots, but their presence was too late to stop the bloodshed. Social media posts before their deletion described a scene of pandemonium, diners fleeing in terror, vendors abandoning their stalls, and a palpable sense of fear among onlookers unaccustomed to such violence in a city where firearms are virtually non-existent among civilians. Wuhan's role as the epicenter of the COVID-19 pandemic in 2020 adds a profound layer of context to this unrest. The city endured one of the world's strictest lockdowns, with residents confined to their homes for over 76 days, facing food shortages, fear of infection, and suppressed information about the virus's toll. The death of Dr. Li Wenliang, a whistleblower silenced for warning about COVID-19, became a symbol of public frustration with government opacity and mismanagement. As of May 2025, COVID-19 continues to disrupt life in Wuhan, with sporadic outbreaks triggering localized lockdowns and mandatory testing. A 2025 Lancet report highlights that China's ongoing zero-COVID policies have restricted access to non-COVID healthcare for 20% of Wuhan residents, as hospitals prioritize virus cases, leaving patients with chronic conditions or injuries underserved. Social media posts, before censorship, described long queues at testing centers and frustration over delayed medical care, amplifying public discontent. The shooting's timing, amid these lingering pandemic tensions, positions it as a flashpoint for broader societal grievances. The rapid censorship of the incident underscores China's relentless efforts to maintain an image of stability. Within hours, all traces of the shooting were scrubbed from major platforms, and keywords like Wuhan shooting, gun violence, or even Chongren Road were blocked. This aligns with China's history of suppressing sensitive events, from the initial COVID-19 outbreak to the 2022 zero-COVID protests, which erupted after a deadly fire in Xinjiang exposed the human cost of lockdowns. During the pandemic's early days, posts about medical supply shortages or overwhelmed hospitals in Wuhan were swiftly deleted, and in 2025, similar censorship targets complaints about lockdown hardships or vaccine distribution delays. A 2025 South China Morning Post report noted that 40% of social media posts about recent Wuhan lockdowns were censored within 24 hours, reflecting the government's determination to control the narrative. Yet, censorship could not fully silence public discourse. Citizens turned to encrypted apps like Signal or VPNs to share unverified details about Du Feng's alleged criminal empire and the shooter's tragic backstory. A 2023 Tsinghua University study found that over 50% of Chinese social media users rely on VPNs to access restricted information, indicating widespread distrust in official channels. These underground networks of information sharing have become a lifeline for citizens seeking truth, but they also fuel rumors that can distort reality. For instance, some posts claim Du Feng had ties to local officials, enabling his rise from gangster to tycoon, while others speculated the shooter was a former associate betrayed by Du Feng. While these claims lack verification, they reflect a broader public perception. The system favors the connected elite while offering little justice for ordinary citizens. Wuhan's historical context deepens the significance of the shooting. In the 1980s and 1990s, the city was a hotspot for organized crime, with gangs controlling illegal gambling houses, extortion rackets, and black market trade along the Yangtze River. The Sweep Away Black and Evil campaign 2018-2022 dismantled over 10,000 criminal networks nationwide, but their legacy persists in public imagination. Du Feng, portrayed as a former gang boss, embodies this lingering image of a criminal elite who transitioned into legitimate wealth through questionable means, often with the tacit approval of corrupt officials. The shooter, conversely, represents those left behind by China's economic miracle, individuals who feel betrayed by a judicial system that prioritizes power over fairness. China Security Journal 2024 reports that over 30% of violent incidents in China stem from personal disputes unresolved by legal channels, highlighting a pervasive lack of faith in the courts. The ongoing COVID-19 situation exacerbates these tensions. In 2025, Wuhan has faced multiple lockdowns, with restrictions affecting 15% of local businesses in Q1, according to a 2025 China Economic Review report. These measures have led to layoffs, reduced incomes, and supply chain disruptions, particularly in retail and hospitality sectors that employ many low- and middle-income workers. Social media posts before their deletion described families struggling to afford groceries during lockdowns, with some resorting to bartering for essentials. Public resentment has grown, not only over economic hardship, but also over the heavy-handed enforcement of COVID-19 policies, such as mandatory quarantines in centralized facilities, which have been criticized for poor conditions. A 2025 Human Rights Watch report documented cases of residents in Wuhan being forcibly quarantined without adequate food or medical care, fueling perceptions of government overreach. The shooting also resonates with Wuhan's post-COVID trauma. The 2020 lockdown left psychological scars, with residents reporting feelings of isolation, anxiety, and mistrust in authorities. A 2024 Peking University study found that 40% of Wuhan residents exhibited signs of post-traumatic stress related to the pandemic, exacerbated by ongoing restrictions. The shooter's rumored motive, avenging a son lost to an unjust system, may reflect this broader sense of desperation, where personal grievances intersect with societal pressures. The incident, occurring in a city still grappling with the pandemic's fallout, underscores the fragility of China's social fabric. The suppression of the shooting's details further eroded public trust. As posts were deleted, citizens shared stories through private channels, speculating about Du Feng's wealth, his alleged ties to local officials, and the shooter's motives. These narratives, whether accurate or not, highlight a critical issue. The lack of transparent communication fuels rumors and skepticism. The Wuhan shooting is not just a violent act, but a window into China's deeper social fractures. Economic inequality, censorship, societal discontent, and the enduring influence of gang culture, all amplified by the ongoing COVID-19 crisis that continues to strain an already tense society. 2. Economic inequality and social disparities, a fractured society. China's economic ascent, with a GDP surpassing $18 trillion, 0 cents, IMF, 2024, has transformed it into a global powerhouse, but this growth has deepened inequality, creating a society starkly divided by wealth, opportunity, and access to resources. The World Bank, 2023, reports China's Gini coefficient at 0.38, significantly higher than developed nations like Japan, 0.31, while megacities like Beijing, Shanghai, and Shenzhen dazzle with skyscrapers, luxury malls, and tech giants. Tier 2 cities like Wuhan grapple with widening income gaps, skyrocketing living costs, and growing resentment among those excluded from the nation's economic miracle. The middle class, estimated at 400 million people, McKinsey 2024, faces relentless financial pressure that threatens to unravel their aspirations. According to the China Household Finance Survey 2023, over 60% of urban households allocate more than half their income to housing and education, leaving little for savings or discretionary spending. In Wuhan, average home prices have surged from 10,000 yuan per square meter in 2015 to over 20,000 yuan in 2024, while median monthly incomes have risen only modestly, from 5,000 to 7,000 yuan. A typical office worker earning 8,000 to 10,000 yuan monthly may spend 3,000 yuan on rent in central areas like Qiaokou district, where the shooting occurred, consuming nearly half their income. This financial strain has crushed the dreams of young professionals who increasingly view the Chinese dream of prosperity as an unattainable fantasy. A 2024 Renmin University survey revealed that 55% of urban youth under 30 feel pessimistic about their economic future, citing unaffordable housing, stagnant wages, and job insecurity as primary concerns. The ongoing COVID-19 situation has intensified this economic burden. Sporadic lockdowns in 2025, particularly in industrial hubs like Wuhan, have led to widespread job losses, especially in service sectors such as hospitality and retail, which employ many middle-class workers. A 2025 China Economic Review report noted that 25% of small businesses in Hubei temporarily shuttered in Q1 2025 due to pandemic restrictions, slashing incomes for workers already stretched thin. Social media posts before being censored described middle-class families in Wuhan struggling to pay mortgages during lockdowns, with some facing eviction due to unpaid rent. A 2025 South China Morning Post report highlighted cases of white-collar workers taking on gig economy jobs, such as delivery, to make ends meet, a stark contrast to their previous aspirations of upward mobility. This economic precarity fuels resentment toward elites like Du Feng, whose rumored wealth from illicit activities stands in sharp contrast to the struggles of ordinary citizens. At the bottom of the social hierarchy, approximately 300 million migrant workers, National Bureau of Statistics of China, 2024, face systemic exclusion through the hukou system, which ties access to public services like healthcare, and education to one's place of birth. A construction worker in Wuhan might earn 4,000, 6,000 yuan monthly, but lack access to subsidized healthcare or public schools for their children, forcing them to rely on costly private options or leave their families in rural hometowns. This has created a generation of left-behind children, raised by grandparents in villages while parents toil in cities. A 2023 Peking University study found that 70% of migrant workers feel dissatisfied with societal unfairness, and 40% see no path for upward mobility. The Wuhan shooter's rumored motive, avenging a son lost to an unjust system, resonates with this desperation, reflecting the plight of those who feel abandoned by a system that prioritizes urban elites over rural migrants. COVID-19 restrictions have disproportionately harmed migrant workers. Lockdowns and travel bans in 2025 have stranded many in cities without income, as construction sites and factories temporarily closed. A 2025 China Labor Bulletin report documented 500 labor protests in Hubei since January 2025, many involving migrant workers demanding unpaid wages or better conditions during pandemic disruptions. Social media posts before censorship described workers sleeping in makeshift shelters near Wuhan's industrial zones, unable to afford rent or return home due to travel restrictions. These hardships amplify perceptions of injustice, as migrant workers see wealth concentrated among urban elites while they struggle to survive. Urban-rural disparities further exacerbate these tensions. Rural per capita income is less than one-third of urban income, averaging 20,000 yuan annually compared to 70,000 yuan in cities. National Bureau of Statistics, 2024. In Hubei province, rural residents migrate to Wuhan for work, only to face discrimination and exploitation. Construction workers, for instance, are frequently paid late or underpaid, with some reporting wages withheld for months. A 2023 China Labor Bulletin report recorded over 1,000 labor disputes in Hubei, including cases of wage theft and hazardous working conditions on sites building Wuhan's expanding skyline. The pandemic has worsened these issues, with a 2025 Xinhua report noting that 30% of migrant workers in Wuhan faced unemployment or reduced hours in 2025 due to lockdown disruptions, leaving many without savings or support. Corruption is a significant driver of inequality. Local officials, often in collusion with businesses, profit from land deals and urban development projects, sidelining ordinary citizens. In Wuhan, the rapid expansion of commercial districts like Chonggren Road, where the shooting occurred, has been linked to corrupt practices. With developers securing prime land through bribes to local authorities, a 2024 Transparency International report ranked China 80th out of 180 countries for corruption perception, citing pervasive issues in local governance. Figures like Du Feng, rumored to have amassed wealth through illicit means before entering legitimate business, symbolize this nexus of corruption and privilege. Public resentment toward such figures is palpable, as citizens perceive a system rigged to favor the connected elite. Environmental degradation adds another layer of hardship, particularly for low-income communities. Wuhan's industrial zones, which produce steel and chemicals, contribute to severe air pollution, with PM 2.5 levels frequently exceeding WHO safety limits, according to a 2024 Greenpeace report. A 2023 Lancet study estimated that air pollution causes 1.2 million premature deaths annually in China, disproportionately affecting those in polluted outskirts where migrant workers are often housed. These communities lack access to adequate health care, a problem worsened by COVID-19, as hospitals have prioritized virus cases. A 2025 South China Morning Post report noted that 20% of Wuhan's low-income residents reported respiratory issues in 2025, exacerbated by reduced healthcare access during outbreaks. This environmental injustice deepens the sense of marginalization, as the poor bear the brunt of industrial progress, while elites enjoy cleaner, wealthier urban centers. Educational disparities perpetuate the cycle of inequality. Urban elites can afford private tutors and international schools, ensuring their children's success, while migrant children attend overcrowded, underfunded schools. A 2024 China Education Review study found that only 20% of migrant children in Wuhan have access to public schools, forcing many into low-qualified teachers and outdated materials. This limits their future opportunities, trapping families in poverty. The Wuhan shooter's story, if the rumors of his son's imprisonment are true, may reflect a parent driven to desperation by a system that offered his family no path forward, a sentiment shared by many migrant workers whose children face systemic barriers. The COVID-19 pandemic has further exposed these disparities. Lockdowns have disrupted schooling, with migrant children often lacking access to online learning due to limited internet or devices. A 2025 UNESCO report estimated that 30% of migrant children in Chinese cities fell behind academically in 2025 due to pandemic school closures, widening the educational gap. Meanwhile, urban elites have invested in private tutoring to maintain their children's edge, further entrenching inequality. The economic divide, coupled with these systemic barriers, creates a fractured society where resentment festers and incidents like the Wuhan shooting become stark manifestations of underlying tensions. 3. Censorship, discontent, and gang culture, a volatile mix. Information censorship, suppressing the truth. China's Great Firewall is one of the world's most sophisticated censorship systems, blocking over 70% of content related to politics, social issues, or religion, according to Freedom House 2024. The Wuhan shooting exemplifies this control. Posts on Douyin and Weibo were deleted within hours, and keywords like Wuhan shooting, gun violence, or Du Fang were banned from search results. The government employs millions of sensors and advanced AI tools to monitor and suppress sensitive information, ensuring that events threatening the narrative of stability remain hidden. China Media Project 2024 reports that over 90% of negative news about social issues, from corruption to violence, is either suppressed or excluded from official channels. This censorship has been a hallmark of China's response to the COVID-19 pandemic, both in its early stages and in 2025. During the 2020 outbreak in Wuhan, posts about medical supply shortages, overwhelmed hospitals, or unreported deaths were swiftly removed, and whistleblowers like Dr. Li Wenliang were silenced, sparking public outrage. In 2025, similar tactics target complaints about ongoing lockdowns, vaccine distribution delays, or hospital overcrowding. A 2025 South China Morning Post report noted that 40% of social media posts about recent Wuhan lockdowns, many describing long testing queues, food shortages, or delayed medical care, were censored within 24 hours. This suppression extends to the Wuhan shooting, where details about Du Feng's alleged criminal past or the shooter's motives were absent from state media, surviving only through fleeting rumors on private channels. Censorship erodes public trust in official channels, creating a vicious cycle of skepticism and rumor-mongering. A 2023 Pew Research Center survey found that 65% of Chinese citizens under 35 distrust state media reports on social issues, a sentiment amplified by the handling of COVID-19 information. Citizens have turned to VPNs and encrypted apps like Signal to share restricted content, with over 50% of social media users accessing banned information, according to a 2023 Tsinghua University study. In the Wuhan shooting, unverified details about Du Feng's ties to local officials or the shooter's tragic backstory spread rapidly through these underground networks, reflecting a public desperate for truth. Similarly, censored posts about COVID-19 in 2025, such as reports of vaccine shortages or forced quarantines in substandard facilities, have fueled public frustration, with citizens seeking alternative sources to understand the reality of the pandemic's impact. The suppression of open discourse amplifies latent discontent, as citizens feel stifled in expressing their grievances. The 2022 OSCFV protests, sparked by a deadly fire in Xinjiang that exposed the human cost of lockdowns, saw hundreds arrested after censored complaints went viral. Social media post at the time, before deletion, described families trapped in burning buildings due to locked exits. A consequence of strict quarantine measures, in 2025, similar frustrations surround Wuhan's lockdowns, with residents reporting restricted access to healthcare and economic hardship. The Wuhan shooter may have acted out of a similar sense of desperation, believing legal recourse was futile in a system that prioritizes control over justice. China Security Journal, 2024, notes that over 30% of public violence cases in China stem from personal disputes unresolved by legal channels, a problem exacerbated by the lack of transparent communication. Societal discontent, a ticking time bomb. Wuhan's violent ethos, Li Qi, with its satirical depiction of daily life, being attacked over a pricey noodle bowl, cursed by drivers, or nearly shot at a late-night stall, captures a broader societal unease in China. While exaggerated, this portrayal reflects a reality where economic pressures, censorship, and systemic injustice create a volatile environment. According to South China Morning Post, 2024, China records 50-70 public attacks annually, typically involving knives, vehicles, or improvised weapons. The Wuhan shooting, though rare due to strict gun control laws, highlights the potential for violence when tensions boil over. A 2023 knife attack at a Guangdong school, which killed 6 people, was driven by a personal dispute with the institution, illustrating how unresolved grievances can escalate. The ongoing COVID-19 situation has significantly intensified societal discontent. Localized lockdowns in Wuhan, implemented to curb outbreaks in 2025, have disrupted 15% of local businesses, leading to layoffs and reduced incomes. According to a 2025 China Economic Review report, social media posts before their deletion described families struggling to afford basic necessities during restrictions, with some resorting to bartering for food or medicine. The enforcement of mandatory quarantines in centralized facilities has drawn particular ire, with a 2025 Human Rights Watch report documenting cases of Wuhan residents confined in poorly equipped centers with inadequate sanitation and limited medical care. These measures, perceived as heavy-handed, have fueled resentment toward authorities, amplifying the sense of alienation already prevalent from the 2020 lockdown. Youth disillusionment is a growing concern, further exacerbated by the pandemic's economic fallout. The lying flat Pingpan movement, which emerged in 2021, reflects young people's rejection of China's relentless work culture and unattainable economic goals. A 2024 China Youth Daily Survey found that 60% of university graduates feel pessimistic about their career prospects, citing high unemployment rates, 15% for those aged 16-24 in 2024, and stagnant wages. In Wuhan, where industrial and service jobs dominate, young workers face intense competition and low pay, with many earning less than 5,000 yuan monthly despite grueling hours. The pandemic has worsened these challenges, with lockdowns